obviously you can tell I was super busy yesterday. I got a lot of seeds started, and I'm really excited to talk to you about what seeds I got started today or yesterday and why I got them started. As always, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you know my latest videos are up, and make sure you drop me a comment below. Do you find videos about what seeds I'm starting each month? Do you find these valuable? Are these useful to you? I know a lot of you guys are not in my particular zone, so there is some differences regarding that. But when I started gardening, I always had a really hard time trying to figure out what it was that I was supposed to plant at what time. And so one of my favorite people to follow on Instagram is the Dallas Garden School. And the Dallas Garden School will present each month what vegetables and what flowers you should be starting inside and outside, what seeds you should be working with. And it's just such a quick, easy guide. And I know it takes a lot of effort for them to go through to create these posts, but they are so incredibly useful to me and I love them. So I'm trying to give back to my community as well, letting you guys know what I'm planting when. Okay, it is August in my area, and this is a very important time of year. Not because I'm necessarily planting a lot of stuff outside right now, but because I am going ahead and starting all of my seeds that are considered hardy annuals. A hardy annual is a plant that loves cooler temps. It's something that you plant out in the landscape about 6 weeks prior to your first frost. And then it kind of has a little bit of growth on top, but it spends the whole winter really producing roots and such underneath, right? Underneath the ground. And then come spring, it basically has this massive jump start getting it started. Now, not every plant can do this. It has to be a hardy annual, something that loves cooler temps. So this is something that you want to look on in your area and see what works best for you. Now, one of my favorite books, actually, let me just go grab it real quick. Okay, here it is. This is one of my favorite books. It is called Cool Flowers, and it's by Lisa Mason Ziegler. And it is a very simple, easy to follow book. Absolutely love it. Basically, the idea is how to grow and enjoy long blooming hardy annual flowers using cool weather techniques. And that is something I'm going to be doing, starting all these seeds now, planting them out about 6 weeks prior to my first frost date, and then overwintering them so that I get a really great jumpstart on the spring. The book is very detailed, goes through a lot of different situations, but it also goes through individual flowers. It goes through Ami, bachelor's buttons, black-eyed Susan, delphinium, Iceland poppies, tons and tons and tons of stuff. And it does have an easy access appendix at the back on page 138 that actually lists out every single one of the varieties and talks about whether you should sow it indoors or outdoors. Some just sow directly outdoors and some will sow indoors. The seeds I'm going to be talking about today are the seeds that I am starting inside because it is August. I want to go ahead and get these seeds started so that they are ready to go out 6 weeks before my last frost. The average first frost date in my area, that's zone 8A in Wylie, Texas, is November 22nd. I can't remember the last time I saw a true frost date on November 22nd. I feel like mine's really more of a week later. The first week in December is typically when we see a frost. You guys take that with a grain of salt, whatever works best for your area. So knowing that I need to get these puppies in by, beginning to mid-October, then I need to go ahead and start them now so that they have some really great growth before I put them outside, if that makes sense. So basically, when you're starting to look at potentially doing this cool weather kind of growing technique, and you want to plant some of these hardy annuals, you need to start with your first frost date, count about 6 weeks, all right, because that's how much time you want to get them in planted prior to that first frost date. And then from there, you need to count back a certain amount of weeks to get the flower to, or the plant to, a certain level of maturity, right? So I would give it at least another 6 to 12 weeks prior to that, depending on what type of bloom you are trying to grow. Okay, so let's go over the seeds that I got started this time. This time, all of these are indoor seeds, starting them indoor methods. I'll have a separate video of all the seeds I'm going to be starting outside. And so all of these I started inside. I started them using soil blocks. So my little, soil press, it makes little 2-inch by 2-inch blocks, and I drop my seed in it. I use just a very standard seed mix that I get from Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever I happen to be at the moment. A seed mix has no nutrients, fertilizers, that kind of stuff in it, which is perfectly fine for starting seeds. I will bump these up to larger containers or plant directly into the landscape once they are ready, and that's when they will get their fertilizer. I tend to do them in large seed trays, and I like to use a dome in the beginning. My house happens to be very dry inside, so I don't have a lot of humidity within my house. So the humidity domes are very, very important. And then I also put them under grow light. Some seeds need light to germinate, some seeds do not. It really just depends, and you'll have to read the package of each one as you're getting started. So the first set of seeds that I got started this time are Campanolas, or also known as bellflowers, or also known as Canterbury bells. Yes, 3 different names for that one. I always grew up knowing them as Canterbury bells. I think it's a beautiful, whimsical name, but also bellflower and also Campanola. I'm going to be growing them in 4 colors this year. The first one is called Champion Lavender. The second is Champion White. The third is Champion Blue. And the last one is Champion Pink. Very excited about all of them. All of these Campanola seeds were purchased from Johnny's, which is one of my favorite places to purchase online. Always gives a lot of information on their packets, which is great. These are all pelleted. Pelleted means the seed is so tiny and so difficult to work with that basically the company adds a little bit of a coating around it to make the seed a little bit easier to handle and easier to locate. Once water is added to that coating, the coating dissolves. So I put all my seeds out on my tray and then I spray it all down with water. The spray of the water dissolves the coating and allows the seed to begin its germination process. Now, if you have a pelleted seed, that is not a seed that you want to soak prior to putting in the ground or putting into your seed trays or anything like that. If you soak them, all of the pelleted outside, like all the area will dissolve and you'll just have tiny, tiny itty bitty seeds again. So don't soak pelleted seeds. And I can tell you that from, absolute experience. Okay, the next seeds that I got started were 3 different types of Foxglove, also known as digitalis. And some of these are 2-year blooms, biennial blooms, all right? So meaning the first year grows greenery, the second year gives you the bloom, and then it's done, right? And then you start over. So it's a mix. Sometimes I will say I have put some out as a hardy annual, meaning started them in the fall, planted them out, they had winter to cool, and then they were supposed to not give me blooms, that they did give me blooms the next year. So we'll see what happens with these. Okay, so the varieties that I'm growing this year on Foxglove, 3 of them. The first one is from Johnny's Seeds, and it is Dalmatian Peach, and it's a hybrid digitalis. And this is a short-lived perennial or biennial in zones 4 through 8. I did want to point out that Foxglove or digitalis are poisonous. All parts of the plants are poisonous, so that's very important that you know that and put it in an area where it's not going to be accessed by animals or children. They're really, really great as a beautiful, very unique cut flower. This is also pelleted. So I'll show you guys the difference because Johnny's is pelleted, whereas I got also 2 varieties from Florette. The first variety is called Alba, and the second variety is called Excelsior. And these are not pelleted. So let me show you guys real quick what that looks like. Okay, here is the Foxglove Excelsior, and you can see the seeds actually here in the little container or in the little package. And that is how tiny the seeds are. I mean, they look like dust, right? So these are not pelleted, all right? They do not have a coating. These are just actually what the seeds look like, all right? So that is the Excelsior, or non-pelleted. And then Johnny's, I purchased pelleted. So once again, pelleted means that they have a coating to make them a little bit larger. And you can see that they are actually covered in a white, sometimes it's yellow, little coating. But it makes it way easier to deal with these, pick them up, move them around. So that's the difference between pelleted and non-pelleted. Okay, the second set of variety of blooms that I got started were some snapdragons. And if you haven't grown snapdragons, you should absolutely try it. And I'm not talking about the snapdragons that you go get at your local box store that are kind of shorter. Maybe they get 12 inches tall, that kind of thing. I'm talking about some true long stem gorgeous snapdragons. They're really, really fun to work with. They're fairly easy to grow and they're great as a hardy annual. So 2 varieties that I got started, both were from Johnny's, and they're both mixes, or blends. So mix or a blend is gonna be a wide variety of colors that are all mixed together in the same packet. So the first one is called Potomac Berry Blend, and it has lots of pinks, purples, raspberries, magentas, that kind of feel to it. And the second one is Potomac Early Sunrise Mix, which is pinks, yellows, oranges, corals, peaches, like that kind of feel to it. Very, very pretty. So I did get all of these started. And these are really easy to overwinter as well. And then the last type of seed that I got started is a bee balm or lambada. Some people call it monarda, a lot of different varieties. It is very pollinator friendly. Pollinators absolutely love it. They'll just cover it. And it's a really fun, kind of very whimsical cut flower. And so I did get that started as well. It describes it as unique lavender pink flower clusters. I think is really, really fun. So I got that one started as well. Now, that is not all of the flowers that I'm starting. These are not all my hardy annuals. I don't have a massive space to get a bunch of seeds started at one time. So I have to work in shifts. So I'm gonna get this one started, and then in a couple of weeks, I'll get another variety started. So I'll just keep kind of adding onto it and adding onto it over time. Specifically the humidity domes, I only have a certain amount of humidity domes. So I really like for my first seed trays to go ahead and sprout and get started. Then I can remove the humidity domes and use them on the next set that I'm working with. I know that I could go buy more humidity domes, but I just haven't done it. Just hasn't been a thing. So these are the ones that I'm starting as my hardy annuals right now, and I'm going to post additional videos as I start more over the next few weeks, just so you guys can see what I'm up to and what I'm preparing. I do want to encourage you once again, check out your local library, go to Half Price Books, or order online Cool Flowers by Lisa Mason Ziegler. Very easy, simple read. This is the kind of book that I toss in the car with me, and when I am waiting in line to pick up all of my children, because I have so many, this is a book I like to glance through. The photos are fine. I mean, they're nothing out of this world spectacular. It's the information and the way it is described. It is described for a home gardener, right? It is described for someone who's learning, which I absolutely love. Sometimes gardening books can be really intimidating because they're for a professional master gardener. That's not who I am. And I am a person who's learning. So really, really easy to go through, very organized, and really easy to read and understand. So that's all for today's video. I would love for you guys to drop me a comment below and let me know if there's any flowers that you start in the fall and use the cold weather method. So you're starting it in the fall, you plant it out in your garden about 6 weeks prior to the first frost, you overwinter it, and then you get a wow factor right at the beginning of spring with this design. So if that's something you do, drop me your favorite variety below that you love to use that technique with. As always, she's a mad gardener or decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.